Hey, Stephen Yanni here doing the junkyard crawl at Berniston Auto Wrecking in Berniston, Massachusetts with a massive Ford E350 van. Now this type of a van, if you're old enough, you'll remember when these things appeared on the scene. Before 1978, this is more like what a van or an ambulance looked like. 1978, there's a thing called the National EMS Services Act, mandated by Congress, and any town or country or city that got federal funding from the federal government had to have ambulances that were larger and safer. So it put an end in 1978, the National EMS Systems Act, to the days of the Cadillac ambulance and brought on the world of these types of ambulance vans. Now this is a mid-sized one. There are even ones built on like 1-ton truck chassis with a box in the back. That's an extension of even this. But this is a great example of a 1984 E350. Now this is something that's kind of neat. A lot of this was specially made specifically for ambulance use, and no, Ford didn't build this. More on that in a moment. But as we get to that, we can see that 1984, as we have here, this is the first year for the return of the wonderful Ford Blue Oval on the front of all Ford vehicles. Excuse me, 83 was the year, there you go, Mustangs, etc. But again, we see it here, Ford corporate pride coming back. But the grille here has been modified. This is where a couple of red or maybe amber emergency lights will be flashing. So of course, you see these in your rearview mirror, pull over, let the ambulance go by. The hood is interesting too. This is not from Ford. This is modified by the conversion company. Again, more on that in a moment. These louvers, which would look pretty cool on the hood of a 32 Ford Roadster, are in here to allow the engine to breathe. There you have it right there. Now, some water will certainly get in there, but keep in mind, most ambulances are stored indoors until the time that they're out and about on a service call. So the opening here wasn't the big problem you might think it is. But under the hood, here it is, the 460. This one is a carbureted engine, and again, the 460 was an outgrowth of the 429, and astonishing amounts of rust. Look at this pulley here, the inner pulley where the dual belts go. Again, dual belts for reliability, but look at this pulley here that's crusting away. It's actually crumbling. That's unbelievable levels of rust right there. This is a stamped metal pulley right there. It's falling apart. But again, the flex fan, or the clutch fan, I should say, this thing right here with this liquid coupler here that basically frees up at speed to reduce parasitic drag, but does a great job at slower speeds. Now, there are two batteries on this one here. There's one here on the passenger side, and there's a spot on the driver's side. And I made a mistake on a previous video. We had a Ford diesel pickup truck, and I mentioned how the two batteries were 24 volts. Actually, they're in series for a 12-volt system, so I correct myself on that one. With that said, the twin batteries on this were there to supplement the electrical system on this. A lot of lights on this thing, as we'll see. But again, this is something that was called a cab and chassis. And on the VIN of this thing, we're going to see something kind of unusual. Now again, Ford didn't build these ambulances. They sold the raw material to conversion outfits. And if you look at the VIN right there, we'll see at the very top line, it says incomplete vehicle, manufactured, right there. The incomplete vehicle, that's the VIN, which is really weird, unless you're a fleet buyer looking to buy raw cab and chassis to turn into ambulance. In fact, it's still done today. The axle code on this thing is C2, which tells us there's a 410 Dana in the back. More on that in a moment. But here's the 85-mile-an-hour speedometer inside. Twin gas tanks down below the dash. We'll see that switch that says front or rear tank. So again, this would have plenty of range. And again, with that big 460 and the carburetor and the weight of this thing, you might be looking at 10 miles per gallon. So 2 gas tanks mandatory. You don't want to be running out of gas on the way to or from a crash scene. As we make our way to the back, we'll see here that the body of this is Ford van till you get to the top, right up here. This is a fiberglass cap that is added on by a second tier conversion company. Again, more on that in a second. But again, this is a long wheelbase Ford van, 138 inches. The lesser ones were 124, but the 138-inch wheelbase was as long as it got. And beyond that, this is a super van with the extra tail, which is this section right here added on. So this is as big as it got in a Ford van. Now, something to keep in mind, this is a third generation Ford Econoline, new for 1975. And unlike the Gen 1 and Gen 2, which were unit construction, this is a body on frame. This is actually a Ford pickup truck with a van box. So these are rugged, raw material for an ambulance, no sweat. So again, the earlier Ford vans were more flexible, but when again to the third gen in 75, the body on frame construction made these things perfect for van conversions or ambulance conversions like this. Now the rear axle right there, that Dana rear axle, That's not a Dana 60, that's a Dana 70 with, I think, a 10.5-inch ring gear. So it's actually too big to be used in a hot rod or a Hemi-Cooter or something like that. It is a Dana, yeah, there's a sure grip inside of it, or a traction lock for sure. But again, it's too big really for easy conversion to use under a Hemi-Cooter or a Roadrunner. It's not the right kind of Dana. You want a Dana 60. And again, you want a half-ton Dana, and this is not really the right stuff. But the idea is there. Okay, here at the back, we can see here the former markings here. It says Alavir Medical or something like that. Oh, ambulance, there we go. Alavir Ambulance, something like that. So open a door, and in the back, it's, open this one right here. Ah, there we go. Yeah, here it is, man. This is where the EMTs would have sat. The stretcher would have gone right in down the middle. And the beauty of this, unlike previous station wagon conversion ambulances, which they used to call scoop and run. In other words, they'd pick you up on the side of the road and then get you to the hospital as quick as possible. Sad thing there is a lot of folks died on the way, or the injuries got worse. In this, at least you had a fighting chance. This was not an operating theater, but you could get a lot done in here to help people get better on the way to the actual hospital. Now you can see up in the top here the holes from the previous lighting for the medical theater, so to speak, and plenty of light up there. And again, that's a fiberglass roof. This is way taller than the standard Ford metal roof. And again, it's all about the conversion factory that made this back in 1984. And again, this is a result of the National Act on the EMT program to make these more safe than the station wagon type ambulances. So let's work our way to this side. And again, we can see up here, there's blocked off lights. And it is true that if you have an emergency vehicle and you want to make it civilian, you've got to block that stuff off because you can get pulled over for impersonating an emergency vehicle. Not a good idea, unless you're running the Cannonball Run. That's another story altogether. Okay, dual exhaust, yeah, that's a 460, but check this out. This is something that Ford and General Motors both did. When I saw this for the first time as a 20-year-old kid back in '84, I'm thinking, what the heck is up with this? And this is basically a dual-tracked exhaust system that goes to a single muffler in catalytic converter. So it has less back pressure than a true dual exhaust, but it's kind of a weird look, but that's factory stuff. Kind of weird. Here's that big 16.5-inch wheel. Dana 70 rear axle once again, and it does have a limited slip. So again, ambulances, you can't be getting stuck in a snowbank on the way to or from an accident. So limited slip's not uncommon. So let's open this door here and have a peek in. If you want to come on by and swing that to you, there you go. Pull that one to you, right on. And here's the inside. Here's the business area right here. There it is. Now this has been converted. I think a woodworker probably had this. There's some places where it's set up for caulking, tubes of caulking, but against the wall, I can see the oxygen ports and a vacuum port over there. And again, all of this stuff was once very active in, saving lives, emergency calls to houses, car crashes, whatever, you name it. This van or this ambulance was far better equipped to at least keep you alive on your way to the hospital than an older Cadillac conversion. Let's take a peek further. And inside the front, yeah, and not pretty basic stuff. There's the little lamp right there, which would help the EMT write out his report on his way to or from the accident. Up top, you can see the roof has been sliced open. The edges are kind of jagged. Again, these weren't pretty, and that conversion work in this case was handled by Yankee Coach in Palmer, Mass. Here, this yellow sticker right down here tells the story. So again, Yankee Coach in Palmer, Massachusetts is where the Ford cab and chassis was delivered back in '84 and turned into this ambulance. Now it's funny, to this day, that building exists, and recently it's been turned into the Yankee Flea Market. It's an indoor swap meet, if you will. And I actually had a booth there for about a year. It's owned by Mike Walker. And you walk into the Yankee indoor flea market, and it's where they used to build ambulances just like this one. In fact, this one was built there. So it's kind of weird. But Yankee Coach was one of probably dozens of ambulance conversion companies located throughout the country back in the day, and even now, for that matter. But again, this is not something that Ford sold as an ambulance. You would have bought the cab and chassis, so to speak, the cut-down van, and then you'd send it off to a place like Yankee Coach for final construction or final assembly. And that's the warranty sticker right there that says that Yankee Coach is certified to do this kind of work, because you can't have ambulances built by backyard hot rodders. They had to be certified, and this one was. So that's the story of how ambulances grew from Cadillac station wagon conversions into full-on serious mobile operating rooms, in a sense, really. And a lot of people's lives were saved by things like this. In fact, back in 1971, I broke my right arm, jumped off my buddy's swing, my arm broke in 2 spots. I went to the hospital in a Cadillac ambulance, and I was screaming all the way. And there's nothing they could have done for me, nothing, except get me there as quick as possible with the lights on and people moving out of the way. But a thing like this, you could probably set an arm in something like this without any problems at all. So anyway, we've come a long way in the world of ambulances and safety, and I think we've only begun to see the beginnings of life-saving progress as we go forward. But anyway, this thing's life is over. This one is done. Probably ain't going to go anywhere too soon, although the 460 might find use in a Ford Pinto or who knows what. Not a bad little engine to swap into a smaller car, Maverick or Mustang, whatever it is. So raw material right here waiting to be used. So if you like this video, be sure to stay tuned to the Steve Maggs YouTube channel. There's plenty more to come.